Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Kerrville Weekly News Roundup, brought to you by the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network. We are your co-hosts and founders of the network, Andrew Gay, Dom Fox, and Gilbert Paiz, here in the studio with us today. We're going to discuss our favorite top news picks of the week. So let's jump right to it. I hope you guys are having a good afternoon. I know it's hot out there if you're here in the Texas Hill Country. So we'll bring you some fresh cool data for you. Tom, you want to kick us off there, sir?
Sure. So first of all, the Harvey Bellew trial has been set for September 29th. So those interested in seeing whether Mr. Bellew can keep his seat on the commissioner's court. And even though he's a convicted felon, we're going to get a court ruling on that. We'll have a hearing and hopefully a court ruling shortly thereafter. And then really a couple of different stories about pets and pet shelters. Andrew, first of all, they're the county's moving forward with the approval of plans for construction of a new pet shelter based upon the bond election that was passed, even though the commissioners don't seem too pleased that the pets shelter bond election or bond proposal passed and their pet projects didn't, no pun intended. And it also
there was some drama about that, though. They kind of seemed to backtrack a little bit after the bond passed.
They backtracked a little, but in the last hearing, the architect presented the plans and he was told keep it going and keep it in budget. The second is that the Center for Fitness in Kerrville recently hosted a pet food and supply donation. So for Kerrville Pets Alive, so shout out for helping out with Kerrville Pets Alive. Please adopt, don't shop. And if you have the chance, go down to Pets Alive or one of the other great pet shelters and help out with some of their rescue dogs.
Thanks, Tom. Gilbert, what do you got for us this week?
I've got two stories for us. I'd like to recap for us. Number one is the gay hater that's standing out there over at the library. God hates LGBTQ. In case you don't know, there's a gentleman out there. His name is Robert Hurt. He stands out in front of the library with a sign that says God hates LGBTQ. Now, it doesn't matter what you think of his position one way or the other, but I don't know about you guys, but I get tired of seeing him out there. He's there in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon, sometimes in the evening, and he has been charged with he's been charged with a felony for making a terroristic threat against the Kerrville City Council. Several weeks ago, apparently, he made some comments about he couldn't care less if someone showed up at the council meeting with an AK-47 or equivalent. And he also apparently said he could care less about the possibility of open caskets. So it's kind of a veiled threat against the city council. Apparently he's really mad about some of the controversy that we've had over the past few weeks about the Bud Holdsworth Memorial Library and whether or not they are grooming kids when it comes to the books that they show. That guy obviously has some serious mental illness, and I personally don't think that God hates anybody. I think for somebody like him to go out there and protest about that is kind of silly. He's not changing any minds, and he certainly isn't speaking for the whole community. So that's interesting. He may go away for a felony, so we may not have to see him with his sign anymore. And by the way, there's been some counter protesters out there in the past. There was a gentleman for a time out there that was holding up a sign that said, F this guy. And he held up a sign with a little arrow pointing to Mr. Hurst. I don't know that that's real helpful either, but it seemed to get the job done. So that was interesting. That was my first story. And the second story I'd like to talk about is there's an upcoming back to school bash that's being held at Light of the Hill. In case you don't know, Light of the Hill is a Methodist encampment right off the Methodist encampment road. They're going to do back to school bash, which means they're going to give out some school supplies, gently used clothing. They're going to be shoe vouchers and some resource information. Plus, because it's a back to school bash, they're also going to have bounce houses, music, popsicles, and some more. The event is slated for Saturday, August the 5th from 9 to 11. It's free. And you do have to register, I believe, if you want to get some of the school supplies. And so the best place to get more information is contact Beth Palmer with Kerrville First United Methodist Church. They're the sponsors of the Back to School Bash. And you can email her at Beth That's BETH.Palmer, PALMER, at KFUMC.org. And you can also register your child by calling or texting 210-904-8054. And like I said, the event's going to be held at Light of the Hill, which is on 610 Methodist Encampment Road on Saturday, August the 5th from 9 to 11. Be sure to call and register. It's being sponsored by several other organizations, so it'll be a good time. And if I'm not, yes, here it is. It's school supplies, haircuts, and gently used clothing. So all those things, every kid that's going back to school here in the next couple of weeks could benefit from. So take a look at it.
Thank you, Gilbert. And then for myself, I have two quick mentions. One is this is an article that I picked up on from the Hill Country Community Journal from Mrs. Tammy Prout. This is about the CVB reporting success of new marketing strategies is the title of the article. There's there's a lot of quotes in here from Mrs. Julie Davis, who I know personally. We're together a lot of mornings featured on the Kerr County Lead. But there's some interesting little tidbits in this article, and I would suggest you go to the hillcountrycommunity.com website to check this article out if you want the full thing. But a couple of mentions I just wanted to pull out of here real quick was hospitality. So they're having success. They one of their jobs is the KCVB is to market to outside possible travelers or people in other communities about why they would want to come to Kerrville, whether it's tourism, sightseeing, or any of the attractions that we have here, museum, Western art, whatever it is, the river, those sorts of things. And so they track a lot of that data to become more efficient and effective in marketing towards those people. And she says that the local impact is seen through job-related earnings. She reported 1,100 direct travel-related jobs in Kerrville, garnering $34 million in earnings for local residents. Julie Davis says the hospitality is actually the second largest employer in Kerr County. It's just shy of the medical industry. In addition, she says that direct travel spending from tourists last year exceeded $88 million, providing for sales tax revenue of more than $3 million and more than $1.7 million in hotel occupancy tax. So hot tax last year was up over 9.7% from the prior year. And it's very important visitors reduce our tax burden by 25%. 25%. That's pretty significant. So a couple of quotes from that article there from Mrs. Julie Davis. Awesome article about travel and tourism here in Kerrville. That was my first story. The second I wanted to mention was, Leadership Kerr County. I am, full disclosure, I'm on the board or the steering committee of Leadership Kerr County, which is we're working on becoming a separate nonprofit, but traditionally it was attached through the Chamber of Commerce here in Kerrville. Applications for this upcoming year's class, which will be class number 38, is coming up next week. The deadline is August 1st. We do have a number of applicants that are already in, but we're still encouraging people to apply. I had two people just in the last couple of days hit me up and say, "Hey, is this something that I should think about doing?" And of course, my answer is absolutely. I knew them from the business community. I think that's if you're a business owner, business leader, organization rep that has ties either to this community here, maybe talk to whoever you need to talk to in your organization about possibly seeing about joining leadership for this upcoming year's class. It's a great journey. It's a great program to go through to really get some insight and get some what I would call adult learning knowledge around the local community and what it really takes to run this city in this county. And that, I think, will do it. Gentlemen, you have anything exciting planned for the weekend to close out our conversation here?
I'm going to stay inside.
Beat the heat. Yeah, you're not sitting on your back porch watching any thunderstorms roll in this weekend, huh?
We have a dog that had major knee reconstruction surgery yesterday, so we pick her up today, and I suspect we'll be doing a little TLC this weekend.
Nursing.
There you go.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, same here. We don't have a lot planned. I do think that we are going to try to go see Oppenheimer. It's my brother-in-law's, the youngest of that family. He's coming in town because he lives outside of the community, so he's coming in town, and we want to go see maybe see a movie. I already checked the Barbie box, so now that was the gateway to say, hey, well, why don't we go see Oppenheimer now that we already saw Barbie? So
So is that a gateway to you moving to a pink outfit?
I'm wearing the pink shirt. I told Lewis this morning when we were talking to Lita, I said, I'm pretty sure this is the shirt I wore when I went to go see Barbie. Because my wife was
pink,
like,
is it?
it's
It
pink.
looks-
It's pink enough.
It's peach. It
Mauve.
looks like
Mauve.
Okay,
I'm
well,
glad you said that. I was going to say that my wife will much appreciate that. I'll never forget the first time that came out of my mouth. It's pink. She said, "No, sir, that's mauve, sir." I stand corrected. Okay, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, interact with us, share our content, helps other people find the show and the podcast network. If you're interested in starting your own podcast or you have questions about podcasting, do not hesitate to reach out to us. Send us a message. We'll be glad to talk to you about it. That will do it for the Kerrville Weekly News Roundup. We will catch you next week. Have a great and safe weekend. Stay cool.
This is Tom Fox. I hope you enjoyed this edition of the Kerrville Weekly News Roundup. This podcast is a production of the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I hope you will subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever great podcasts are listened to. I hope you'll join Gilbert, Andrew, and myself next week where we take a look at some of the top stories from Kerrville and the surrounding Hill Country area. Thanks so much for listening.